I'll start off with, he made his debut in the Premier League, let's say when he was 17. Spring chicken against a wonderful against a wonderful Man United team. You know, he played his first opening game. He played against the likes of Cantona, Ryan Giggs, Andy Cole, David Beckham. Like he was there at the start. Roy Keane. Do you know what I mean? He later on went on to obviously, you know, he had a good career with QPR. You know, he bounced there back and forth, but then also he was at Southampton. He's been at Portsmouth. He's been at Birmingham. He's also had a little stint abroad in Iceland, where he transitioned not just from a player but into a coach as well. He's at the moment, what he's doing with, like I said, what he's doing with the youth right now is incredible, and I can't wait to delve right deeper into what he's been doing.
I'm going to tell you some things as well. There's a couple of things in football as well that I think I should tell you guys when we get into it, and you'll understand a little bit about me. And there's a few things that people probably didn't know about me out there, and how things materialised. And you know, I have had a difficult career, but I'm sure that when I do explain it to you in certain aspects of it, you'll understand it. So you know, it's good for me to be able to open up to you guys as well.
No, definitely. Without further ado, people, I give you Nigel Quashie. Listen, Nigel, thank you very much for being on the Backpage. It's an honour to have you. I mean, first of all, just tell us. I know you probably told this story, and I've watched a few of your previous interviews as well. But if you could just tell our listeners in terms of how it felt to grow up in the area, South London, and then to transition into QPR, and then, you know, making your debut at such a young age. If you could just take us through that little step at the start of your career.
You know, I'm from South London, and it was the best upbringing I could ever have. You know, I say to my son, you know, growing up in where I managed to, you know, go to school in Peckham. You know, the Aylesbury estate was the biggest learning curve. I know education's a big learning curve, but without the Aylesbury estate and without being able to understand what's going on around me, I think that was the biggest education I could ever have. The people of South London gave me an opportunity to be successful as well. They played a massive part. You know, you don't achieve things on your own a lot of the time. Sometimes you have to have certain influences and certain people that do believe in you. And the street believed in me at that time. I just managed to grab it with both hands and went to school and went to Peckham. And, you know, like I've said, just the learning curve was to see people, you know, going through Peckham, opening their shop doors, looking to earn a living, kids surviving, you know, me as well. And then all of a sudden I start playing football for the secondary school. And it was just by chance. I wanted to go for the school trial, and I got picked, and I'd never played football before, and I got picked. And then all of a sudden I had my first game, and my football boots that I'd been practicing with had ripped, and on the hill. And on the day of my first game, my mum had to go to the corner shop and get some masking tape, right? Put it on my heel and cover it in kiwi polish. And I played in a school game. And after that, I got picked by QPR on that game.
Wow.
And then, and after that, I didn't know too much about it. And then, like, QPR and how it worked. And then they had a centre in South London, and I thought that they were from West London. But they had a centre there, and I trained there once a week, and I was struggling to even get on the bus. My mum couldn't take me to training, and I was going through a rough area at that time to get to Eltham as well, which was like Bermondsey, which was pretty. You know, it was a difficult area to get through. And I went to QPR, and my main aim was to try and survive, get to training, survive, and get home, and even survive on the Aylesbury estate and climb over drug addicts in the lift to get onto the 6th floor and try and get home. And I was given an opportunity, and I took it. And it wasn't easy, but it was tough. But like I said, without South London, I'm nobody, and those people helped me as well. So not when they took the ball off me in the pen when my mum was calling out the window, and then I have to try and get it. And they're doing rondos on me in the pen. So yeah.
That's amazing. What would you say? You know, growing up in such a young age, who was the influences? You know, who influenced you? I know you just mentioned there, like you mentioned your mum briefly with, you know, even just coming to the rescue and buying you something to help with your boots. Like who else was a positive influence? Would you say?
Well, I didn't have a father, to be fair, and I didn't really have an influence until I got asked to go to QPR full time from school. So everything I was doing, I was practically doing on my own. I had no sort of direction on how things were going to work, and then I was playing for QPR on a Sunday, and then as it materialised, you train once a week, then it would be twice a week, and then I was going over to the main hub in Ealing. And then from then on, I went full time at school, and I was on £28.50 a week, and that was on the old YTS scheme. And my travel card, they gave me a travel card to get from Elephant Castle, because I had to sometimes walk to Elephant Castle, because if I missed the bus and I wouldn't get there in time to get that to Elephant Castle, and my travel card was the most expensive thing. So when I was hungry, I used to look at my travel card and think I could eat that. So I didn't have that much of an influence until I went full time, and then I trained, and then I went with the first team in pre-season. I played in a game at Plymouth, and then I went with the youth team, and then Christmas I was going to do the kit up in Manchester, because one player at the youth team had to travel with the first team to do the kit, and you had to miss a game sometimes. And I went to Man United putting out the kit, and then the next morning I went to the ground to make sure the boots were all clear and dry and everything like that. And then Ray Wilkins named the team an hour and a half before, and then I was in the team, and then I played at Man United, and from then onwards I sort of materialised into, you know, becoming a player. But my mum turned up at the game. Well, I called my mum, asked Ray Wilkins if I could call my mum at home, and he said no, call this mobile number. I called the mobile number, my mum was at the game, so he paid for my mum's train ticket and bought my mum a mobile phone for me to be in contact with her, and she was outside the game.
Wow.
Well, she was at the game, but outside waiting for me. So I would say Ray Wilkins was a big influence on me then.
Definitely, great man. You know, rest in peace, great man. It's yeah. Go on, check.
No, I just wanted to get wanted to get a little background on like being born and like raised in Peckham, especially at the time. There was obviously a lot of issues going on, a lot of violence, a lot of crime and all this kind of stuff. I wanted to know like how you kind of detached yourself from that and then chose to like focus on football. Was there any like key moments that happened to you that you were like, okay, yes, like I need to make it out of it. I need to do something.
The biggest, you know, what made me realise that I wanted to sort of be a footballer was the fact that I was in an environment, and I'm predominantly from a black area, and it was the best environment, and I'll always look back at it and think it was the best learning curve of my life, the best feeling in the world to see working class people, you know. There was a lot of issues because there was a lot of guns and drugs. There was a lot of, you know, people having to survive and steal, and I was lucky enough to go and do something, but I experienced loads of things where there was a lot of racism, you know, as well. There was, you know, my first sort of experience was racism when I was in Southwark Park in Bermondsey, and I'd gone there one time to watch it was called the Old Metropolitan Police five-a-side. And there was a black guys playing in a five-a-side team, and you know, there was in Bermondsey, and I thought, this is like, you don't really want to be in that area, and the black players were winning, and it just kicked off because they were winning and they were technically better, and you know, that was my first experience of seeing a group of players that were better than somebody else, but were judged by the colour of the skin and their abuse. And I realised that I wanted to come out of an area which was predominantly black to, even though I'm mixed race, but I wanted to go somewhere and do something to prove that there is talent out there. And South London was known for producing so many players. So to be a part of that as well was something that I'm extremely proud of.
Wow. I was just going to pitch in there as well. Listen, you've already, I think what we've been speaking for about, 15 minutes or something like that. I'm really taken aback. I mean, I can't even, obviously we spoke previously just before, obviously the guys jumped in and stuff like that, but I have to commend you again just for your journey, because I always try to run with my life and the mantra of don't make excuses. There's so many times as, black people, we can make excuses. Which are ethnic, Spain, whichever community you want to try and put yourself in, or whatever they want to put us in a sense. But just going back to one thing you mentioned there, which I thought was very vital as well, especially where you came from, and in terms of your role model. Who do you think you looked up to, or who kind of, as maybe a male, it may not even necessarily be a male, because I think that our mums, our females play a big role in terms of how any male grows up, anyone to be fair, male or female. But who do you think was a strong role model or the backbone in terms of how you felt in terms of wanting to push yourself to the next level to actually make as a professional footballer?
I didn't realise the opportunity that I really had was till I left school and went full time. And one what stands out to mind, and my first experience in meeting somebody that was a special person that loved everybody, no matter what the colour of your skin was, no matter where you came from, no matter what you had, no matter what you didn't have. I would have to say that would probably be Ray Wilkins at that time. Okay. Because Ray Wilkins had probably experienced a lot, being as a great player that's played for fantastic football clubs all over Europe. But he at that time at QPR, I had the likes of Andy Impey, I had the likes of Les Ferdinand, I had the likes of Trevor Sinclair.
Wow.
I had the likes of Clive Wilson. These were players that were, Ray Wilkins, didn't matter the colour of the skin, put your arm around you, tell you that he wanted this from you, could do that for you. And he was like a father figure to me. And he would always pick the phone up to me. He adapted to me before I could adapt to him as a manager, because he would pick the phone up to me and knew the area that I was in. And I remember one time he turned up in his car and I was in the pen. And he said, I've heard about where you're from, but I wanted to come here and I wanted to experience it for myself, because I believe that I don't just take an interest in footballers, I take an interest in people. And he was very... he looked around and basically said, look at the opportunity that you've got. Look what you've done in a short space of time. But give this area and give the estate or the block of flats that you live in something to, remember you by. And by things like that they're the sort of people that gave me that sort of inspiration to where I'm at now and how things materialise when I stopped playing. But I would say him. That was the probably one of the best people that I've ever met in football.
Wow.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, a great legacy. And I mean, from doing a lot of reading around your career, the relationships that you have with most of the managers that you've been with has been, it seems like it's a kind of father figure. The people looked more about improving you as a person or as a human being than just improving you as a footballer.
100%.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's something I definitely noticed. But also, I'm a true believer in terms of, you attract what the person you are, you attract. So if you're, a kind and, positive person, then that's the kind of people that you attract around you. And I believe that definitely, from the sounds of it, you're definitely one of those people that, always attract. No matter what happened in your career, there was a silver lining, or there was always something, another opportunity for you to, kind of bounce back on.
Everything that I've learned in my career now is to give back to seeing the next generation to with everything that I'm doing now. I left QPR and then I went to Nottingham Forest because QPR were in financial difficulty. I went to Nottingham Forest and I lost my son at 20. And,
wow.
A lot of people don't know too much about that. And I was at Nottingham Forest and I lost my son, and it was an experience that I would never wish upon anybody. And I don't think that I recovered the way that I should have recovered, and I didn't know how to handle it because I'd left South London and I'd gone into a different environment, and I was went for a lot of money, and I lost my son, and then I got a phone call and, you know, Tony Pulis, you know, these are the things that people don't know. And I know everyone talks about Tony Pulis, his playing style and he's this, but all the managers that have really, really had that effect on me are the ones that never put football first. And he gave me a call and he heard about the situation. He said, well, I come to Portsmouth to have a chat. And I was thinking, why is this guy calling me? You know, like he's down in Portsmouth and he calls me and he said, just come down to Portsmouth and have a chat. So I got down to Portsmouth, got to a hotel, and he said, I've got a sports psychologist for you. And I was like, what? Why is this guy like, just called me up with a sports psychologist? And he said, don't worry about football. I want to help you as a person. Started talking to this guy and I started to open up about what I'd been through and how I'm feeling. And I'd never done that with anybody and not even with my partner at that time. Started talking to this guy and then I went back to Nottingham, still training at Nottingham. And then I was talking to this guy online and on the phone, and he got me back to where I wanted to be. And Tony Pulis said, I think we're getting somewhere with you. Do you want to come to Portsmouth? And he said, you know, to play. He said, don't worry about if you don't play straight away, but let's make sure that you're all right as a person. And let's get back to try and seeing you enjoying your football. And if it wasn't for him, I might not be alive now to even tell this story. Wow. And without him, I managed to go to Portsmouth. And he when he felt it was right for me to play, he just said, listen, I'm going to play you out of position, which was on the left. Don't worry about tactics. Don't worry about your position. Go and play some football. Go and enjoy your football. As long as you work hard, go and express yourself, but just enjoy football. Don't worry about results. Don't worry about nothing. I'm more worried about you. Let's get you right. And he did. And I'm so grateful to him, you know, for what he did.
Wow. These are the sides of the managers that, like, certain people you've just mentioned there, just to pitch in, that you don't see that side from the I don't know, from the outside world kind of thing. Obviously, you're within it and things like that. And it's almost a testament to see. And one thing I will say, I'm sure the boys are, you know, and all of us on the back page are saying it, like, you're a tremendously strong character within, outside, everything. I mean, your story already so far is, I'm lost for words in a sense. So I can't continue to commend, but I will probably just keep saying the same thing again and again, because just already what you said, I mean, just to lose, you know, your child and things like that, that's a very deep thing and a scary thing as well to go through. And just credit to Pulis as well, just for doing that as well. He didn't have to. And
that's the difference, because a lot of people don't see much about it. And you know, Harry Redknapp came in and he was another one. He just was about you as a person. It wasn't about footballers. It was about you as a person, like, call you up to see if you're right. Did your family need anything? Can I do anything that do you need a day off? Do you need to spend some time with your kids? You know, all these sort of things that these managers do. All the best managers that I ever had were the ones that sort of said to me, are you all right? Do you need anything? Don't worry about the game. Don't worry about that. Can I help you with anything outside of football? Do you need anything? Is there anything that I can contribute that's going to keep you enjoying your football? And, you know, that's with everything now, with the kids that I'm coaching and, you know, all these young players that I've got in academies. And my responsibility is to make sure that they grow up as people before footballers, and understand that you have to, you know, you've got to respect the world and understand that there's people out there that you want to be an influence on them. And everything that I've managed to do in my career, even though I've had my career, I've got to make sure that I've got to try and do the best I can to help other people now.
Yeah. Just going off the back of what you said, I feel like it's important for us, especially as fans, to sometimes take a step back and actually realise that a lot of players and managers are actually human beings as well. Because I feel like because football's become so commercial, we kind of just worry about performances all the time, not worrying like what the player could be going through. Because like even your story is actually very touching at the same time. Like there would have been people that are like, oh, why is this guy not doing this? Why is he not doing that? But they don't know half of what you're going through. So it's just weird.
But that's why I said to you guys that you're doing, you know, everything that you're doing is fantastic, because you're transferring the football side and the characteristic sides of footballers, and you're putting it out into the open to say, listen, footballers are human. Footballers do make mistakes. Footballers do have difficult times. But then there's managers out there that do play a great part in trying to correct everything, that, you know, to make sure that they get the best out of people. It's the same in every walk of life, isn't it? In every job that you do, if you treat people right, you get the best out of them. And there is a lot of people out there that do have, you know, mental health and stuff like that. And, you know, we have to try and be a little bit more understanding and accept that there are people out there that do suffer in different ways.
Yeah. And I think it's even like very important from these times now, especially with like the rise of social media and all of these different platforms. A lot of fans and a lot of people feel like they're entitled to speak on players, and sometimes it even goes even deeper than actually just the football. They actually start commenting on the player's character and all of this kind of stuff. So I feel like, especially fans, we need to sometimes just relax a little bit and just like take a step back and realize that yes, these players are going through things as well. So we shouldn't just be speaking like out of. We shouldn't be speaking out of tone, shall I say?
Yeah, but one thing that I think me as a footballer, I've always had to sort of as you grow into the professional game, I think a lot of fans do have that entitlement to say maybe constructive things, but not give abuse. But we have to understand that they are working hard for their money and they want their team to win. But there's a way that you do transfer, you know, your feelings to players and the football clubs and stuff like that. And it's so difficult because there's not one player out there that I've ever met that wants to lose a football match. It's sometimes on the day you might come up against a team that's better than you, and you have to sort of, no matter what, I've always I wasn't as technically good as a lot of players, but I was technically good, but I wasn't as good as some of the flair players. But all the fans are more responsible for understanding is that as long as players make and decide to work hard, show that they want to play, show that they're committed, show that they want to play for that shirt, I think they will accept that. But then if they feel that there are people out there that are taking liberties, I think they will voice their opinions. But I think sometimes you just have to be a little bit careful in how to do say things, because we don't know what's going on in people's personal lives. There might be certain things that, you know, with everything that's going on with this pandemic, people have been ill, there's people with cancer, there's a lot of people dying in the world right now. So being on social media and slaughtering players or, you know, giving racist abuse that I've seen and heard about is a little bit uncalled for.
Yeah, no, 100%. Gosh, I'm just so moved by everything. It's so strange because I had so many things I wanted to say, but you know, just to hear some of the things, to know that you think on the same level as a lot of us, you know, it's so nice to relate to someone, even though we looked at you, you know, once on TV or Match of the Day, and we'd be like, you know, oh, that's, you know, a professional footballer. So no, it's so interesting. I wanted to move on, or I wanted to kind of touch on as well. You kind of mentioned about the fans. How was it for you transitioning from Portsmouth to Southampton? You know, I don't think.
Cheers for that. Thanks for that. You know, thanks for that.
No, because obviously, you know, like, God.
I thought you was going to ask me that one. You know, everybody wants to know. But like I said, I'm here to tell you the truth. I'm here to explain it. You know, what happened was Portsmouth offered me a new 3-year contract. I agreed it. They turned around and said to me that we're withdrawing the contract, and I had 2 years left at that time, and they basically said we're withdrawing a contract. I'd agreed everything. I was playing for Scotland and everything was great. And then they withdrew it. Then Harry left. Harry went to Southampton. They basically told me that I wasn't going to play again for the club. They had basically put, if I remember, a lot of the fans had been made aware that I didn't want to play, which was wrong because I was involved in a squad in one of my last games there. And I said to the manager, Ziyech at the time, I want to play. He turned around and said to me that the club's told me that you're never going to play for the club again. I can't play you. So At that time, Glasgow Rangers was interested because I was playing for Scotland, and I think they were happy to do a loan for the rest of the season. Southampton had put a bid in, and Glasgow Rangers wanted to do the loan, and they turned around and said to me, no, we're taking the money. And I basically had turned around and said that, well, is it a good idea that I go to Southampton because of everything that, you know, just being down the road? And they just turned around and said to me, if you don't leave, then you're going to rot in the reserves. And I had spoken to Harry at the time, who was great about it. And one thing I will say is I decided to go to Southampton because Glasgow Rangers couldn't take me on a permanent. Portsmouth didn't want the loan, went to Southampton, and the Southampton fans were absolutely brilliant. They knew straight away that I wanted to play. But then the hardest thing was I was living in between Portsmouth and Southampton, and I pulled up in a petrol station, and I was filling up the fuel tank, and a guy was leaving with 2 other workmen, and he turned around and said to me, when you get out of here by the lights, I'm going to throw fuel over your car and set your car on fire.
Wow.
So the transition was pretty, it was pretty rough. I had to move in between Southampton and London. I had a security driver for a while. And a lot of the supporters don't know that. And it's hard because when supporters are told certain things, I wasn't able to sort of protect myself. They had made a sort of, I think it got leaked into one of the local forums that I was going to Southampton. I never agreed anything. And from that moment on, things just dissolved really with my relationship. And ever since then, it was hard to sort of keep a relationship, but they were fantastic supporters. They've always had great support and been great, and were great to me when I was there. But, you know, obviously a lot of supporters are told certain things, and I just had to move on. And, you know, the hardest thing was seeing my family get abuse, and, you know, me getting abuse for things that wasn't my doing. They just told me that I wasn't going to play for the club again, and that was it.
I mean, I've just to pitch in there, I just heard that last bit as well. I think there's something similar happened to Harry Redknapp when you said something about the crossover, because when he went to do the managing between Portsmouth and Southampton and whatnot, something similar happened when he was obviously under some form of attack. I wouldn't say attack like in terms of what happened to you, but he mentioned something like that on Sky Sports. Just hearing about that, and obviously the family as well. That was a very very pivotal time. I'm obviously trying to, I would guess. But how was it transitioning from that point onto the rest of your career? Like, did you take that on? Did you continue thinking about that in terms of other moves, in terms of the backlash, or was it just because it was that Portsmouth, Southampton, that closeness, like, was that a factor?
The hardest thing for me was to want to just play football.
Yeah.
And the thing that made it very difficult to understand was that I've been offered a contract, but then they took it away, and then Southampton's offered the money and they accepted the money. For me, I went to Southampton, and one thing I think a lot of supporters will always agree with me as a footballer was that I always gave 100%. I always believed that from being a kid. I always believed that I should make sure that I give everything that I've got to help the team. And if I didn't, and if the team, if I didn't play well, but the other players around me did, and they won, then fair enough. My responsibility was to help people on a football pitch, to be a little bit of a figure, to allow, the flair players that the fans like as well to go and express themselves. All I wanted to do was try and do the right things and show people that I wanted to play the game, and I felt that I did that. And everywhere that I went, I just felt that I have to be responsible for the football club. I have to be responsible for the players, the supporters, my family, and all I've wanted to do is just play and get on with life and go home and lead a normal life. And I did that. And leaving Southampton as well. A lot of times when a lot of people have asked me why I left, I never left in the summer. I always wanted to stay at a club until January, and I felt I wanted to give the best opportunity for the club to see where they're at financially as well in terms of players. And then West Brom wanted to buy me, and I've had a great relationship with Southampton, with West Brom, and people still message me now. But with West Brom, you know, it was a great club. My son was, you know, when I was moved to West Brom, I had my son, and, you know, my partner now, and I built up a great relationship in the area, and that leads on to later on with the coaching and everything like that and where I'm at. And then I went to West Ham, and it was tough because I got a bad ankle injury, and my mum was fighting cancer at the time, and I was travelling to London backwards and forwards from from West Brom, because my mum was fighting it for 5 years, and I left West Brom, went to West Ham, and it was a little bit close, but I'd done my ankle. My mum was, you know, pretty ill, and then I went on loan to Blues, and I was travelling every day from London because my mum was in Guy's Hospital, and my mum passed away, and I had a really bad time at West Ham. I didn't get to play much because I had a career-threatening injury, and I didn't play, and I went on loan to Blues, and they helped me get fit. They didn't take me straight away. Birmingham City were fantastic because they said to me, well, why don't you come and be with your family and you can get fit? And West Ham agreed it and did that. And then it was great because I played all the games there, but West Ham wanted me back, and I thought that I was going to be involved with the squad, and a lot of players were asking for me to be involved. And the manager at the time, I think Gianfranco Zola, had agreed what his squad was, and I had to respect that. And then I went to Wolves, and that was back near my family as well. And I didn't really play much there, but Mick McCarthy said to me, why don't you be an influence with the young players and make sure that, you know, that they keep their feet on the ground, because we're looking to get promoted. And that year Blues and Wolves got promoted, and I was lucky enough to be a part of trying to help Mick McCarthy with younger players. But then I went to MK Dons under Paul Ince, and that was fantastic. It was brilliant. He was great. He just said, just play, don't worry about anything. Just, you know, you can travel down from Birmingham, where I was at the time, and I was, you know, my mum with cancer, and he was fantastic, Paul Ince, and he was another guy that was instrumental in a lot of personal things and issues that I was going through, and so was Mick McCarthy. But, you know, then my mum passed away, and I sort of kind of lost a little bit of interest in football because of that time and everything all at once with my ankle. And West Ham told me that I wasn't going to play for the club at all, and, you know, I could sit at home and just pick my money up, and I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to go and play, and that's why I went to MK Dons and played, and then I went back to QPR. And it was, of all things that I was going through at that time, if I could have ever have finished playing and finish at a club that I think that I would have enjoyed the most, I think it was QPR, because that club gave me everything. That club gave me an opportunity to be somebody as well, and that's how it finished in the end, my career. And then things just changed from there onwards, and I had to make plans on where I was going to go in life.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know you kind of talk about your personal trials and tribulations, but, you know, leading into what you do now in terms of working with young players, is that something that you discuss with them? Is that something that is part of the program that you offer?
Well, with the academy, how it all started, after I went to Iceland, like you mentioned in the beginning, and they wanted me to play, and I wasn't really interested. I've always been interested in youth players because I was a young player coming through, and I wanted to, you know, see young players getting opportunities. And, you know, the Premier League's it's the best league in the world, and there hasn't been that many opportunities for a lot of young players. Just say, for instance, Arsenal's produced players all the time, Man United, you know, now Chelsea's having that as well. But I always believed that when I was coming through, you had me, Rio, you know, we're all from South London, Rio, you know, Anton, Jason Yule, Cole, you know, Emerson, Boyce. You know, now you've got the new generation of players coming through, like Sancho, you know, all from South London, and South London's always produced players. But I've always been interested in young players. The first thing I look at when I stopped playing was, I went to Iceland. They wanted me to play, and I just said, well, what about your youth team? And they said, well, would you like to coach? And I said, yeah, I'll coach the youth team. And I restructured youth systems out there. And I did it with one club and helped them turn their whole first team into homegrown youth players, and they were in a lower division. Then another team spotted that, wanted me to go up a division, went there, and I got 6 internationals by coaching. And I did some stuff with the Icelandic FA. You know, I was lucky enough to learn the language as well. And it was a great experience for me. I was there 4 years. My partner was coming over, and for us, it was great. But my son's in at Wolves, and he's playing football, and they offered me another 3-4 years. But then I decided to come back, and now I've got an academy, which I never thought it would go this way. I started with 3 kids, and now it's transformed into something where I've got my own facility. On the other side of things, we've got my own trampoline parks, and we've got yoga studios, inflatable parks, which my partner deals with her dad. But the academy side is now geared for me to be that responsible, coach figure that can have an environment for the kids. And I give them a football kit now. They come and train. I'm building it's a 7-acre facility now. So I'm building that. I'm building a gym, classroom. I'm doing mental health, disabilities. I'm doing underprivileged kids projects. So before the pandemic, everything was moving in the right direction. So once we get back, it's all going to be building. And the most satisfying thing is to see kids come into an environment knowing that they're safe and I can have an influence on them. And to have 15 players signed to pro clubs in 4 years it's been unbelievable. But I'll tell you a story, and it's all abilities. And I had a kid that's got autism, and this was just before the pandemic actually. And he came in, and his mum said, "Would he be able to try it?" So I said, "Yeah, you can try it." She said that he's got really bad autism. She said, "I don't care if he's got any disability or anything like that. I'm not interested. He's more than welcome. I'll give him a football kit, even though he hasn't, come in yet." Gave him a football kit. He has really high level of autism. Introduced him to the kids, and in that training session, I didn't have to even mention anything to the kids. He's a goalkeeper. The kids wouldn't even take shots at him. They'd just pass it to the side so that he could just dive and get the ball and stuff like that. And that was probably the most rewarding thing that I've ever done since I've opened the academy, to see the kids all want to be together but adapt to another kid that's got disabilities, but still make sure that they would let their own personal development improve just to see somebody else enjoy their football. So this is why I get more satisfaction out of doing what I'm doing, even though I've got kids signed to academies, but bringing the community together and giving them an environment to just be happy in life is something that I'm really excited about in terms of where I'm going with it.
Can you make sure that we get a chance to visit as well? We will come up.
No, you guys are welcome. You guys are welcome. No. You guys are welcome. If you ever decide that you might want to do something in Birmingham, or you might want to do some footage, or you guys are welcome. Listen, anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
I've tweeted you as well. I've tweeted you, so please.
Yeah, no. Do you know what? With me, right? There's people that out there that want doors open to be able to express how they feel about certain things, or show people that they are talented at other things. So why can't people help people? Why can't people be a part of what other people want to do, or help people, or give them advice, or try to be a little bit more understanding of, listen, there's people out there that, like when I was asked to come on your shows, yeah, no problem at all. I want to be able to interact with people, because I was locked away a lot more as a footballer. You're in hotels and stuff like that. But there's not more interaction out there. And I think a lot more supporters would respond a lot more in a positive way if they get more of an insight into footballers' lives. And this is where you guys come in.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's very true. I just wanted to ask Nigel about, what you mentioned about the pandemic and, your academy. Is there anything that you've done in terms to adapt to the pandemic, or is it something that you just completely, you closed down the academy? You didn't really, was it a thing where you still made sure that you was doing sessions online or speaking to the players, etc., etc.?
Yeah, the thing about with the pandemic was, with the academy and the facility, it's a 7-acre facility, so I have all the community teams trained here as well. So what I do is I provide the football pitches for the community. We're building at the same time, so we're building a gym and everything like that. So everything was government guidelined. So I had to be very, very careful in how to do things. And the most important thing is, as a coach, the first thing that you have to think about is, what happens if it was your son or daughter? So my main responsibility was to make sure everything was safe, government guidelines. I have closed the academy. I'm in the office now, and I'm planning for when we do go back. So they are allowing certain coaching at the moment now, but because I'm building and everything at the moment, I'm going to give it another month, and hopefully things sort of take a lot more ease and things start to ease down a bit. But all my I didn't want to do anything online because I didn't really want to have an effect on people's personal lives in terms of they might be going through difficult situations or they might have lost somebody in their family. So I didn't really want to make them feel that, oh, football's more important than what's going on. So with everything that I'm looking to sort of do now, which will be releasing certain things to the actual academy, then I'll be able to let them know and update them. But I just thought it was important that family time you can't beat. And with everything that's going on and the risk that's out there at the moment, I just felt it was right that people should take a little bit more time out. Football's a game that it's going to come back, but then we don't know if people's having people in their family that might be passing away or vulnerable elderly as well. So I had to sort of look at it in the position that, well, what happens if one of my family members got it? Would I want to play football? And I think everything that I've been through in my life, football was just a game. So when you look at it now and we're going through this pandemic, football is just a game. But hopefully it's a game that comes back and brings everybody back together, and the Premier League is going to be starting, and, you know, I can watch your teams run around now. I don't have to do it no more. You know, I can just enjoy watching players chasing the ball and maybe not touching it for about 45 minutes. So, it's the best game in the world, and I'm grateful enough to have played at the highest level, but played against some of the best players, and all the best players, top players, great people, and a lot of time for you. And it was a great experience, but everything that I've learned is now to give back to people and help them. And they all might not be footballers, but can we make them as better people as well? That's the most important thing.